The first time I held Hannah Brooks in my arms, I had a stack of quarterly reports under one elbow, a half-cold coffee in my other hand, and absolutely no plan for what to do with her, which, to be fair, had been my general strategy around Hannah for the previous 8 months. Avoid eye contact for too long. Say something normal. Do not stare when she laughed. Do not imagine what it would be like if she ever looked at me like I was more than the guy who fixed printer jams and made clean spreadsheets. Then she tripped over the corner of a sample display in the hallway, crashed straight into my chest, and I caught her by the waist before either of us hit the floor. Her hands landed on my shoulders. My coffee survived. My dignity did not. For about 3 seconds, the entire fourth floor of Whitaker and Rowe marketing went completely silent. Hannah blinked up at me. I blinked down at her. Then she grinned like she had just discovered a new hobby and said, "Ooh, I need to fall again." That was the moment I knew my work crush was going to ruin my life. In a good way, possibly, but still, ruin. My name is Daniel Mercer. I was 25, a project coordinator at a mid-sized marketing firm in Columbus, Ohio, and I had built most of my adult personality around being useful without being noticed. If a client meeting needed 5 versions of a deck, I made 6. If the office kitchen ran out of decent coffee, I knew where the emergency bag was hidden. If someone cried in the stairwell after a bad performance review, I became mysteriously busy nearby until they either wanted water or privacy. I liked things organized, predictable, low risk. That was partly because of work, mostly because of Caroline. Caroline was my ex-fiancée, though saying it out loud still felt like trying on somebody else's coat. We had called off the wedding 10 months before after she admitted she had been in love with the idea of us more than me. She was not cruel about it. That almost made it worse. Ever since then, I had stayed in my lane. Work. Gym. Frozen dinners I pretended were meal prep. Occasional beer with my friend Marcus, who kept telling me I needed to get back out there, as if dating were a parking lot and I had simply forgotten where I left my car. Then Hannah joined the firm. She was 24, sharp as a paper cut, and somehow always looked like she had stepped out of a better lit version of the room everyone else was in. That day she wore charcoal slacks, a soft blue blouse, and small silver earrings that swung when she turned her head too fast, which she did constantly because Hannah moved through life like she was late for a train she was excited to catch. She worked in client strategy, which meant she could make nervous executives feel brilliant while quietly saving them from their own terrible ideas. I admired that. I also admired the way she tucked one foot under her chair during long meetings, the way she hummed under her breath when she was thinking, and the way she never said, "just following up" in an email unless she was absolutely prepared to ruin someone's afternoon. But I had rules. Rule 1, no office romance. Rule 2, especially not with someone I actually liked. Rule 3, if Hannah Brooks smiled at me, I should immediately find a reason to look at a spreadsheet. So naturally, there I was, holding her in the middle of the hallway while 17 coworkers pretended not to watch and failed completely. "Are you okay?" I asked. My voice came out lower than I meant it to. Her fingers tightened slightly on my shoulders before she noticed and let go. "I'm fine," she said. "Your reflexes are offensive." "Sorry? You caught me too well. Now I can't even be dramatic." "You want me to drop you?" She looked up at me through her lashes. "Buy me dinner first." Someone behind us coughed. It sounded a lot like Marcus trying not to die. I stepped back so fast I nearly introduced my own spine to the wall. Hannah straightened, smoothing her blouse, but the grin stayed. Not a polite smile. Not a workplace smile. A real one. Warm, dangerous, aimed straight at me. "You saved the reports too," she said, glancing at the papers still tucked under my arm. "I have priorities. And I'm below quarterly performance metrics." I didn't say below. Her eyebrows lifted. I wanted to walk directly into the elevator and keep going until the building ran out of floors. Before I could embarrass myself further, our department director, Janice Cole, appeared at the end of the hall with the expression of a woman who had seen budgets collapse and interns microwave fish. "Daniel," she said. "Hannah, conference room. 2 minutes." Hannah glanced at me. If this is about the falling, I'd like to state for the record that the floor started it. Janice did not blink. Client call. That sobered both of us. The client was Brighton Home Goods, our biggest account of the quarter, and the reason everyone had been running around with sample displays in the first place. We were pitching a national campaign in 3 days. Hannah had built the messaging strategy. I had coordinated the production timeline. If Brighton liked the pitch, our little Columbus office got national attention. If they didn't, Janice got that quiet voice that made grown adults update their resumes. Hannah and I walked toward the conference room together, not touching. Very aware that we had just been touching. "You sure you're okay?" I asked quietly. She looked sideways at me. "You keep asking that like you're hoping for a different answer." "I'm hoping you didn't twist anything." I twisted my pride. That heals with ice? And compliments. I laughed before I could stop myself. She smiled at the sound, and something in her face softened just enough to make my chest feel crowded. There were things I noticed because I had a crush. Then there were things I noticed because I paid attention. Hannah's laugh had been lighter when she first started. Lately, it came a second late, like she had to approve it before letting it out. She still charmed clients, still joked with the team, still brought those little cinnamon candies she kept in a glass jar on her desk. But some mornings, she stood in the break room staring at the coffee machine like it had personally betrayed her. I wanted to ask why. I didn't. That was another rule. In the conference room, Janice put us on speaker with Brighton's regional VP, a man named Paul who loved urgency almost as much as he loved saying the word synergy. The call lasted 20 minutes. It felt like dental surgery with charts. Brighton wanted a revised pitch by the next morning. Not 3 days from now, tomorrow. Their CEO had decided to fly in early, and if we wanted a shot, we had one night to rebuild the campaign around a completely different emotional angle. Janice ended the call and looked at the room. Nobody breathed. Then Hannah leaned forward. "We can do it." I looked at her. She looked back. There it was again, that reckless spark, not careless, brave. "We?" Janice asked. Hannah nodded toward me. "Daniel knows the production constraints better than anyone. I know the client's pain points. Put us in the small war room, give us 6 hours and enough takeout to lower our life expectancy." Janice's eyes moved to me. "Daniel." Every sensible part of me said to avoid it. 6 hours alone with Hannah in a glass-walled conference room. Late afternoon sliding into evening, stress, caffeine, ideas, proximity. Her jokes, my weak self-control. A workplace crush did not need that kind of oxygen. But Hannah was still looking at me. Not begging, challenging, as if she already believed I would meet her there. I cleared my throat. "We can do it." Her smile was small this time. Private, and that was somehow worse. By 5:30, the office had thinned out. Marcus passed the war room carrying his backpack, saw Hannah and me surrounded by marker boards, and mouthed, "Don't be weird." I mouthed back, "I hate you." Hannah caught it. "Was that about me?" she asked. "No." So, yes. I uncapped a marker. It was a confidential business exchange. With Marcus, he's very corporate. He has a bobblehead of himself on his desk. It's called personal branding. She laughed, and this time it came right away. For the next hour, we worked like we had done it for years. She paced while she talked through consumer emotion. I wrote headlines, crossed out weak ones, built timelines, and challenged her. When an idea sounded pretty but impossible, she liked that. I could tell because she stopped softening her opinions. "No," she said at one point, stealing the marker from my hand. "That tagline sounds like a couch trying to apologize." It tested well in my head. Your head needs a focus. Group. You offering. She paused, marker hovering near the board. Then she said, quieter, "Maybe." The room shifted. Not dramatically. Nothing fell. No music swelled. But her eyes held mine for half a second too long, and suddenly I remembered exactly how her waist had felt under my hand when I caught her. I looked away first. Cowardly, maybe. Professional. That was the lie I chose. At 7, the takeout arrived. Thai food in white containers, 2 plastic forks, and 1 napkin between us because the universe enjoyed subtle cruelty. We sat on the floor beneath the whiteboard, shoes off, backs against opposite sides of the conference table. That, Hannah said, pointing her fork at me, is not how you eat pad thai. I wasn't aware there were rules. There are always rules. I thought you hated rules. I hate boring rules. Food rules matter. Workplace falling etiquette? Very important. She tilted her head. For example, if a woman falls into your arms and delivers an excellent line, you're supposed to flirt back. I almost choked. She looked delighted. I wiped my mouth with the one napkin and tried to recover like a man with at least some inner architecture. I was at work. You are still at work. Exactly. So, Daniel Mercer outside of work is dangerous? No. Daniel Mercer outside of work owns 2 cast iron pans and falls asleep during documentaries. That sounds dangerous to me? Her voice had gone soft around the edges. I looked at her then. Really looked. There was a little smear of sauce at the corner of her mouth. Her hair had slipped from its neat waves into something looser. She seemed tired but not unhappy, like the version of herself she showed clients had finally taken off its heels. I wanted to reach across and wipe the sauce away. I did not. She noticed anyway. Her smile faded, but not in a bad way. What? She asked. Nothing. That was not a nothing look. I set my food down. I was just thinking you're different when you're not performing. For a moment, I regretted saying it. Then her eyes dropped to her takeout. So are you, she said. The honesty landed between us like a hand placed gently on a table. Before I could answer, her phone buzzed beside her knee. She glanced down. Her face changed. Not much. Just enough. The warmth pulled back. Her shoulders tightened. She turned the screen over fast, but not before I saw the preview. I didn't mean to read it, but it was right there. From Mom, please don't embarrass yourself tomorrow. If you're bringing someone to Dad's retirement dinner, make sure he's actually worth showing. Hannah stood too quickly, brushing imaginary dust from her slacks. I should get more coffee, she said. Hannah, I'm fine. There was that word again. But this time, when she reached for the door, she stopped with her hand on the handle and looked back at me. The hallway light caught her face, and for the first time since I had known her, Hannah Brooks looked less like the woman who could sell confidence to a room full of strangers, and more like someone who had been waiting all day for one person to ask the right question. Then she said, Daniel, if I asked you something completely inappropriate for a coworker, would you say no? I should have said, define inappropriate, or we should probably focus on the pitch. Or maybe, Hannah, I am a fragile man who once spent 20 minutes choosing between 2 brands of paper towels, so please do not hand me a live grenade and call it a question. Instead, I said, not automatically. Her fingers stayed curled around the conference room door handle. That's a very Daniel answer. What does that mean? It means you left room for a spreadsheet. I can make one if it helps. Her mouth twitched, but the smile didn't quite hold. She let go of the door and came back to sit on the floor across from me, close enough that our knees almost touched. Almost. I became deeply aware of my kneecaps. My dad's retirement dinner is tomorrow night, she said. Big family thing. My mother has decided that if I show up alone, it means I'm failing at adulthood. That's ridiculous. Correct. Unfortunately, she has never once let being ridiculous slow her down. I leaned back against the conference table. And you need? She looked at me directly, then. Not like a coworker. Not like a strategist calculating an angle. Like a woman standing at the edge of a pool asking if I would jump with her. I need a date. The word date hit me somewhere below the ribs. Oh, I said intelligently. Hannah closed her eyes. Forget it, that was unfair. You don't have to. I didn't say no. Her eyes opened. I should have been careful, professional, sensible. But she had asked me, not because I was convenient, I could see that now. If she wanted convenient, she could have brought anyone. She could have charmed a stranger into a tux by lunchtime. There was something terrifyingly sincere in her expression. Why me? I asked. Her gaze flicked to the marker board, the takeout containers, the one napkin we had somehow shared without making it weird until now. Because you listen, she said. Because you don't perform kindness. You just do it. And because if my mother says something awful, I think you'll hear what she means without letting her define me. I forgot how to breathe for a second. Then she added, also, you have excellent falling related reflexes. There she was, hiding in humor. I wanted to let her. I also wanted to be the person she didn't have to hide from. Hannah, I said, I'll go with you. Her shoulders lowered like she'd been carrying a box no one else could see. Really? Really? As my fake date? The sensible answer was yes. Yes, fake. Clear boundaries, neat columns, no confusion. But my mouth had apparently resigned from the compliance department. As your date, I said, if that's okay. The room went still. Hannah's lips parted a little. I watched it happen and immediately regretted having eyes. That's a dangerous clarification, Daniel Mercer. I've been told I'm dangerous. Cast iron pans. She laughed softly, but color had risen in her cheeks. Okay, she said, as my date. We sat there smiling at each other like idiots while $40,000 of client strategy waited on the wall. Then she picked up the marker and pointed it at me. Ground rules. Of course. 1. You do not let my Aunt Rita corner you near the dessert table. She asks single men about fertility like she's buying livestock. Terrifying, noted. 2. If my cousin Malcolm talks about crypto, fake a medical emergency. I can do a convincing allergic reaction. 3. She hesitated. I waited. Her voice softened. If my mother says something that makes you wonder why I'm like this, please remember, I am trying very hard not to be. There it was again. The little door opening. I could have made a joke. She almost wanted me to. Instead, I moved my foot just enough that the side of my shoe touched hers. A small contact. Ridiculous, maybe. Her eyes dropped to it. Then she pressed back. I don't wonder why you're like this, I said. I like how you are. She stared at me. The air between us changed for the second time that night, only now there was nowhere for me to look except at her. You can't just say things like that, she whispered. I know, I'm usually much more repressed. That was me flirting, by the way, in case your spreadsheet didn't catch it. It caught it. It's making several notes. Her smile was slow this time. Not teasing, inviting. For one reckless second, I thought she might lean forward. For one even more reckless second, I thought I might meet her halfway. Then the conference room lights flickered, and both of us looked up like guilty teenagers. The spell broke, but not completely. It left something behind. A promise, maybe. We worked until after 10. The revised campaign came together with the kind of strange late-night magic that made exhaustion feel like electricity. Hannah built the emotional core around coming home to a place that remembered you. I mapped out the production rollout so tightly Janice might actually smile, which was rarer than a printer working on the first try. By the time we finished, the office was dark except for our room. Hannah stood at the whiteboard reading the final tagline. Brighton Home Goods, she said. Come back to what feels like yours. It's good. It's better than couch apology. Most things are. She turned, grinning, and almost stepped on an uncapped marker. I reached out instinctively. This time she didn't fall. This time my hand closed around hers. We both looked down. Her fingers were warm, smaller than mine, but not delicate. Hannah had hands that moved when she talked, that shaped ideas in the air, that tapped nervous rhythms against coffee cups. Now they were still, held in mine. I didn't fall, she said quietly. No. But you caught me anyway. My thumb brushed over her knuckle before I could stop it. Her breath caught. It was tiny, barely there. It ruined me. Hannah? The elevator dinged down the hall. We let go at the same time, but slowly, like neither of us wanted to be rude to whatever had started between us. Janice appeared a moment later, coat over her arm, eyes tired but sharp. You two still alive? Technically, Hannah said. Janice scanned the board, then the deck on my laptop. Her face revealed nothing for a full minute. Then she said, Send it to me. Go home. Be back at 8. That was Janice for excellent work. I may name a conference room after you. Hannah packed her bag while I sent the files. We rode the elevator down together, standing closer than necessary and not nearly close enough. In the lobby, rain streaked the glass doors. I walked, Hannah said, frowning. At 10:30 at night in the rain? It wasn't raining when I made my poor choices. I'll drive you. She gave me a look. Daniel. What? We're already going to a family dinner together. If you also drive me home, people will start thinking you like me. I held the door open and let the cool smell of rain rush in. People would be observant. She stepped under the awning, then turned back to me. The city lights blurred behind her. Her hair had finally given up and slipped around her face in soft pieces. She looked tired and bright and so beautiful I had to grip my keys to keep from reaching for her. You like me? She asked. There was teasing in it. There was also fear. I recognized that. The moment before an answer could bruise, so I didn't joke. Yes, I said. I do. Hannah's expression changed so openly that it felt like watching a sunrise she hadn't meant to show me. Oh, she said. I smiled. Very Hannah answer. She laughed, stepping closer beneath the awning. I like you too. My heart did something unsustainable. Good to know. Don't get smug. I'm internally unbearable right now. Externally, you're doing okay. The rain came down harder, drumming against the awning, making a small private room out of the night. Hannah looked at my mouth. It was quick. It was not subtle. Every rule I'd made for myself lined up behind my ribs and begged for mercy. We should go, I said, because I was trying to be decent. We should, she agreed. Neither of us moved. Then she reached out, took the front of my raincoat lightly between two fingers, and tugged me 1 inch closer. Not enough for a kiss. Enough to make the possibility stand there with us. For tomorrow, she said softly, if my mother asks how long we've been dating, what should we say? I looked down at her hand still holding my coat. Long enough that I know better than to answer for you. Her grin returned, wicked and warm. Good answer. Then she let go, walked into the rain toward my car, and called over her shoulder, Come on, fake real date. I want to see if your driving is as repressed as your flirting. I followed her, smiling like an idiot. And for the first time in almost a year, I didn't feel like I was getting back out there. I felt like I was walking towards someone. The Brighton pitch went so well the next morning that Janice smiled with teeth. That may not sound significant if you did not know Janice Cole, but in our office, it was roughly equivalent to a solar eclipse. Hannah presented like she had slept 8 hours instead of 4.5. She moved through the deck with clean confidence, her voice warm, her answers sharp. I handled timeline questions, budget limits, vendor capacity, all the practical things that usually made creative ideas limp sadly into a corner. Together, somehow, we looked inevitable. When the call ended, Brighton's VP said, This is exactly what we were hoping for. Janice muted the speaker. The room stayed silent. Then Marcus whispered, Should we clap or sacrifice something? Hannah looked at me across the conference table. I should have looked professional. Instead, I smiled at her like she was the whole campaign. Her answering smile was quick, bright, and only for me. That smile carried me through the rest of the day. By 6:30 that evening, however, I was standing in front of my apartment mirror, wearing the same navy suit I used for weddings, funerals, and any meeting where people said stakeholder alignment too many times. I had changed ties 3 times. This was humiliating because I owned 4 ties. My phone buzzed. Hannah, are you panicking? Me. No. Hannah, Daniel, me, mildly organizing my anxiety. Hannah, wear the dark blue tie. It makes your eyes look illegally sincere. I stared at the message for an unreasonable amount of time. Then I put on the dark blue tie. When I picked her up, she was waiting outside her building in a green dress that made every thought I had try to leave through the nearest exit. It wasn't flashy, knee-length, soft at the sleeves, fitted enough to be deeply unfair. Her hair was pinned on one side with a silver clip, and she wore those same earrings from the hallway. The falling earrings, apparently. She opened my passenger door before I could get out. Don't, she said. I froze halfway out of the driver's seat. Don't what? Don't say something polite like, you look nice. I'm emotionally unstable and require better. I closed my mouth. She slid into the car, then looked at me expectantly. I swallowed. You look beautiful. For once, Hannah Brooks had no immediate comeback. Her fingers paused on the seatbelt. Color warmed her cheeks. Better, she said softly. The drive to her parents' house took 20 minutes. She spent the first 10 giving me a tactical briefing. Her father, Russell, kind but conflict avoidant. Her mother, Denise, elegant and sharp enough to julienne vegetables by staring at them. Her brother, Simon, harmless, unless discussing marathon training. Aunt Rita, fertility interrogator. Cousin Malcolm, crypto hazard. And if anyone asks how we met, I said, at work. And if anyone asks when we started dating, she looked out the window, smiling a little. Yesterday. That seems risky? Everything good is. I glanced at her. She was twisting one ring around her finger, not nervous in a dramatic way. Hannah didn't tremble, she contained. She folded fear into neat corners and sat on it. Without thinking too hard, I reached across the center console and offered my hand, palm up. She looked at it, then at me. You don't have to hold my hand just because we're about to walk into the lion enclosure. I'm not. Then why? Because I want to. Her face changed in that way I was starting to crave, like honesty surprised her before it pleased her. She put her hand in mine. We drove the last 10 minutes that way. Her parents' house was warm and loud and full of people who all seemed to know exactly where the serving spoons lived. Russell Brooks welcomed me with a handshake and genuine relief, as if my arrival personally lowered the room's temperature. Denise Brooks looked me over with a smile that had been trained, not grown. Daniel, she said, Hannah didn't mention you until yesterday. I wasn't very interesting until then, I said. Hannah choked on a laugh beside me. Denise's eyebrows lifted. Modesty, how unusual. Dinner was roast chicken, glossy potatoes, salad no one trusted, and a series of conversational traps disguised as polite questions. So, Daniel, Aunt Rita said before the bread had completed one lap around the table, do you want children? Hannah dropped her fork. I took a sip of water. Eventually, yes, but I usually try to survive appetizers first. Russell laughed into his napkin. Hannah pressed her knee against mine under the table. Not accidentally. My brain immediately abandoned all higher functions. For the next hour, we played the strangest game of my life. Part performance, part truth. When Malcolm started explaining decentralized finance, Hannah touched my wrist and murmured, allergic reaction in 3, 2. I coughed so convincingly Simon offered me an inhaler. When Denise asked if my career had clear upward movement, Hannah leaned forward before I could answer. Daniel is the reason Brighton didn't eat us alive today, she said. He makes difficult things look manageable. Her voice was proud. Of me. I stared at my plate because if I looked at her, everyone at the table would know I was done for. Then Denise turned to her daughter. And you, sweetheart? Still working those hours? You look tired? It sounded like concern. It landed like a slap. Hannah smiled automatically. Big week. You always say that. I only worry because when you run yourself down, you get… Denise waved one elegant hand. Intense. I felt Hannah's knee withdraw from mine. I missed it instantly. Across the table, Russell looked pained. Simon became fascinated by potatoes. No one rescued Hannah because I realized this was a family rhythm. A song they all knew and hated, but kept singing. Hannah's smile stayed perfect. Too perfect. I set my fork down, not to save her, not to play hero. Because the woman beside me had spent last night trusting me with a cracked piece of herself, and I wanted to stand there with her in the crack. I like intense, I said. Denise looked at me. So did Hannah. I kept my voice easy. Hannah cares enough to be precise. She's intense because she's paying attention. The table quieted. Hannah's hand found mine under the table. This time, she held on hard. Denise's smile thinned. How lovely that you think so. I do, I said. Very much. Hannah's thumb moved once across my knuckles. After dinner, Russell gave a short speech about retiring after 37 years as a high school principal. Hannah teared up at the part where he thanked his family, then pretended she hadn't by aggressively rearranging dessert plates. I followed her into the kitchen carrying coffee cups. You okay? I asked. She leaned back against the counter and closed her eyes. If I say fine, will you throw a spoon at me? Only a small one. She laughed, but it cracked at the edges. I hate that she can still do that. she whispered. I'm a grown woman. I negotiate with executives. I can make an entire room pivot in 10 minutes. Then my mother says I look tired, and suddenly I'm 16 and too much again. I set the cups down. Slowly, so she could move away if she wanted, I stepped closer. She didn't. Hannah, I said, you are not too much. Her eyes opened. The kitchen was dim except for the light over the stove. From the dining room came laughter, clinking dishes, someone telling Russell to open another bottle of wine. In that little pocket of quiet, Hannah looked at me like I had handed her something she didn't know how to hold. You keep saying things I want to believe, she said. Good. That's not fair. No, but it's true. Her gaze dropped to my tie. I told you the blue one. You were right. I'm often right. Intensely right. She smiled, and there it was again, the real one. The one that made me feel chosen. Then she reached up and straightened my tie, though it did not need straightening. Her fingers lingered at my collar. I asked you to come tonight because I needed backup, she said. But somewhere between your fake allergy and telling my mother you liked me intense, I stopped pretending this was fake. My heart slammed once, hard. I stopped yesterday, I admitted. Her eyes lifted to mine. Under the awning? Before that. When? I thought of reports under my arm, coffee in my hand, Hannah grinning up from my grip like gravity was an inside joke. When you fell, I said. She laughed softly. That is such a terrible origin story. It's mine. Her fingers curled lightly around my tie. Daniel? Yeah? I'm going to kiss you now, unless your workplace rules are still unionized. They're currently on strike. She pulled me down. The first kiss was soft, careful, a question. The second was not. The second was Hannah rising onto her toes, my hand finding her waist again, exactly where it had been in the hallway, only now I knew what to do with the feeling. She tasted like coffee and sugar and something warm I wanted more of immediately. When we broke apart, she stayed close enough that her breath touched my mouth. Ooh, she whispered. I smiled against her. Need to fall again? Her grin turned wicked. Don't tempt me. My aunt will ask if we're fertile. I laughed, and she kissed me once more, quick and sweet, before stepping back with flushed cheeks. We returned to the dining room holding hands. This time, we didn't let go. By Monday morning, 3 things had happened. Brighton approved the campaign. Janice used the word outstanding without visible pain. And Marcus cornered me by the vending machines with the expression of a man prepared to be deeply annoying. You kissed her, he said. I looked at the granola bars like they might provide legal counsel. Good morning to you, too. You kissed Hannah Brooks. Lower your voice. So, yes. I didn't say that. You're wearing the face. What face? The face of a man who has discovered both joy and terror in the same weekend. Unfortunately, that was accurate. Hannah and I had not talked much after the dinner. I'd driven her home, walked her to her building, and kissed her again under the little awning by her door while rain tapped gently above us. Not frantic, not hidden. Just sweet and slow and devastating. Then she'd rested her forehead against my chest and said, I don't want to make work weird. And I'd said, me neither. Then neither of us had suggested how to accomplish that because apparently kissing was easier than logistics. Now it was Monday, and Hannah was across the office in a cream sweater, laughing at something one of the designers said. She looked normal. I felt like my ribs had been rearranged. Marcus followed my gaze and softened slightly. For what it's worth, I like this for you. You hated my last relationship. I hated that you disappeared inside it. I glanced at him. He shrugged. With Hannah, you look present. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. Hannah, stop having a serious vending machine conference and come to the archive room in 5 minutes. Me. That sounds suspicious. Hannah. It is. Bring your illegally sincere eyes. 5 minutes later, I found her in the archive room between shelves of old client samples and forgotten promotional mugs. This is either very romantic or how people get fired, I said, closing the door behind me. Could be both. She stepped closer, smiling. Hi. Hi. For a second, we just stood there, grinning like we'd invented the concept of privacy. Then she reached for my hand. That simple touch did more damage than the kitchen kiss. I wanted to see you without everyone watching, she said. Are they watching? Marcus has the subtlety of a parade. True. Her thumb traced the side of mine. I also wanted to ask where your head is. With you or with work? Both. The question deserved more than banter. I leaned against the shelf, tugging her gently closer until we stood toe to toe. My head is telling me we should be careful, I said. My stomach is doing backflips every time you look at me. My heart is apparently no longer accepting outside management. Her smile trembled at the edges. That was very organized for a confession. I had categories. I like your categories. What about you? She looked down at our joined hands. I'm scared. The words were quiet but immediate. I squeezed her fingers once. Of work? I asked. Of liking you this much this quickly. She lifted her eyes. Of turning something good into something I have to defend. Of my mother being right that I'm too intense and someday you'll get tired. I hated how calmly she said it, like she had rehearsed the wound. I let go of her hand only to cup her face. Her breath caught. I don't want a smaller version of you, I said. I want the woman who steals markers, bullies taglines, kisses me in kitchens, and terrifies crypto cousins. A laugh escaped her, wet and soft. That is an oddly specific woman. She's my favorite. Hannah leaned into my hand. For a moment, the office disappeared. The fluorescent lights, the files, the policies, the risk. There was just her looking at me like she might believe me if I kept saying it long enough. So I kissed her. Not like the first time. This kiss had certainty in it. Her hand slid up my chest and mine settled at her waist, drawing her closer until there was no almost left between us. She made a small sound against my mouth that I knew I would remember at inconvenient times for the rest of my life. When we broke apart, she smiled. Okay, she whispered. That helped. I'm available for morale support. I'll note it in the project plan. We agreed on caution after that. No office spectacle. No sneaking around like we were ashamed. We would read HR policy, talk to Janice if it became necessary, and not let fear make all the decisions. It felt mature. It lasted 6 hours. At 4:30, Janice called us into her office. Hannah sat beside me, knees angled toward mine by the smallest degree. Janice folded her hands on her desk. I don't care who dates whom as long as the work stays clean, and nobody creates a power imbalance I have to document before coffee. Hannah went very still. I said, Understood. Janice looked between us. You're not in each other's reporting lines. Brighton likes you both. Don't make me regret being sane. Hannah blinked. That's it? That's it. Also, Marcus owes me $20. I turned. Marcus bet on this? Half the office bet on this, Janice said. Go away. In the hallway, Hannah covered her face with both hands. I tried not to laugh. Failed. We are workplace folklore, she groaned. Could be worse. How? Marcus could have won. She dropped her hands, eyes bright with embarrassment and amusement. You're enjoying this? A little. I kissed you once and you became arrogant. 3 times. Her blush was immediate. I loved it so much I nearly forgot where we were. Then her phone rang. She glanced at the screen and the warmth left her face. Mom, she said. My chest tightened. She didn't answer. The call stopped, then a text appeared. Hannah read it, jaw tense. Everything okay? She handed me the phone. Denise, your father told me Daniel was lovely. I hope you're not rushing into another phase just because someone finally praised you. I felt a flare of anger, clean and sharp. But Hannah took the phone back before I could speak. I know, she said. It's classic. You don't have to pretend it doesn't hurt. Her eyes lifted to mine. We were in the hallway, people passing, printers humming. The least intimate place in the world. Still, she reached for me. Not my hand, my sleeve. Two fingers curled into the fabric like she had under the awning. "I want to not answer," she said. But then I feel cruel, then I feel guilty, then I hear her voice in my head all night. "Come here." I led her not to the archive room, not anywhere hidden, but to the empty break area by the windows where the late sun turned the city gold. We stood side by side. "You can answer later," I said. "Or not, but don't answer while you're bleeding." She exhaled, shaky. "I hate that you make sense. I'm very annoying. Deeply." After a moment, she unlocked her phone and typed, "Hannah, I'm happy. Please don't turn that into something I have to apologize for." She stared at it. Then she hit send. The phone buzzed almost immediately. Hannah turned it face down without reading. Then she looked at me. "I chose that," she said, as if testing the words. "You did." "I chose me." "Yes." Her smile came slowly. "And maybe you." My heart kicked. "Maybe?" She stepped closer, brave and teasing again. "I'm being mysterious." "You're bad at it." "I'm excellent at everything." "Intensely excellent." She laughed, then rose on her toes and kissed me right there by the break room windows. Quick, soft, public enough to be a choice. When she pulled back, her eyes shone. "I choose you too," she said. For one perfect second, nothing else mattered. Then my phone buzzed in my pocket. I almost ignored it. I wish I had. The message was from Caroline. "I heard you're seeing someone from work. Can we talk before you make a mistake?" I stared at Caroline's message until the words stopped looking like words. "Can we talk before you make a mistake?" Hannah must have seen something change in my face because her smile faded. "What happened?" I could have tilted the screen away, made some vague excuse, protected the fragile golden thing we had just chosen, but secrets were how good things got cavities. I handed her the phone. She read it once. Her expression barely moved, but I felt the distance try to enter the space between us. "Caroline," she said, "my ex-fiancé." I know. Of course she knew. Offices had weather systems and old heartbreak was a stubborn fog. Hannah gave the phone back. "Do you want to talk to her?" "No." The answer came so fast it surprised both of us. I looked down at the message again, then at the woman in front of me. The woman who had fallen into my arms, challenged me, kissed me like she meant it, and chosen herself even when it cost her. "No," I said again, steadier. "I don't." Hannah searched my face. "You don't have to decide that for me." "I'm not." "Daniel, I'm deciding it for me." I slipped the phone into my pocket. Caroline and I ended because she didn't want me, not really. And for a long time, I thought that meant there was something missing in me. Hannah's eyes softened. "But when I'm with you," I continued, "I don't feel like I'm auditioning for a role someone else wrote. I feel like myself. Nervous, apparently hilarious under pressure, emotionally overorganized, but myself." Her mouth curved faintly. "Emotionally overorganized is going on your birthday cake." I deserve that. The phone buzzed again in my pocket. I didn't look. Hannah did, not with jealousy, with fear that she was trying very hard not to wear. So I pulled the phone out, opened Caroline's message thread, and typed with Hannah standing beside me. Me. "I'm not making a mistake. I hope you're well, but I don't want to reopen this. Please don't contact me about my relationship again." I hit send before I could turn it into a committee meeting. Then I blocked the number. My hand shook afterward. Hannah noticed. She always noticed. "You okay?" she asked. I laughed once, quietly. I think that was the first time I didn't leave a door open just in case someone changed their mind about me. Her face changed in that open, sunrise way. Then she stepped into me and wrapped her arms around my waist. Not playful, not teasing. Holding. I folded around her, pressing my face into her hair. She smelled like vanilla, rain, and the office coffee we both pretended was acceptable. I'm sorry she said that, Hannah murmured against my chest. I'm not. She leaned back to look at me, because now I got to choose you out loud. Her eyes shone. You keep doing that, she whispered. What? Making me want to be brave. I brushed my thumb along her cheek. You were brave before me. Maybe, she smiled, but you make it more fun. The next few weeks were not effortless. Real life rarely respects a dramatic kiss. We had meetings and deadlines and a Brighton campaign that grew teeth. We had coworkers who tried very hard to act normal, and Marcus, who did not try at all. At work, Hannah and I were careful. Not cold, just clean. We kept our projects documented, our decisions transparent, and our hands mostly to ourselves until 5 o'clock. Mostly. There was one incident with a supply closet, a stack of presentation folders, and Hannah whispering, "Your workplace rules are terrible chaperones." I will take the details to my grave. Outside work, we learned each other for real. She learned I alphabetized spices but forgot laundry in the dryer. I learned she owned 7 red lipsticks that were, allegedly, completely different moods. She learned I hated olives. I learned she cried at videos of old dogs being adopted and got furious if anyone saw. We had our first actual date at a tiny Italian place with red candles and a waiter who called us the nervous couple in an accent so charming we tipped him too much. Hannah ordered gnocchi and stole half my tiramisu. I let her because I was in love and also because she had a fork near my hand. The word love arrived before either of us said it. It showed up in grocery aisles and morning texts. In the way she sent me pictures of crooked sidewalk signs because she knew they made me laugh. In the way I kept cinnamon candies in my desk drawer after noticing hers went empty during stressful weeks. It showed up one Friday evening when Denise called during dinner at my apartment. Hannah looked at the screen, inhaled, and answered, "Hi, Mom?" I watched her listen. Then she said, calm and clear, "I'm not discussing Daniel like he's a symptom. If you want to ask about my life, ask kindly." Silence. Hannah's hand found mine under the table. This time she didn't grip like she was drowning. She held on like we were dancing. After she hung up, she stared at our plates for a long moment. Then she said, "I think I just became terrifying." "You've always been terrifying." She smiled. "Yes, but now I have boundaries. That's my favorite horror subgenre." She laughed so hard she had to cover her face. I loved her then. I mean, I had loved her before. Probably from the hallway. Probably from that grin. But that night, watching her laugh in my kitchen with marinara on her sleeve and courage still trembling through her fingers, I knew I didn't want to be careful with the truth anymore. So I said, "I love you." She went still. My entire nervous system attempted to resign. Then Hannah lowered her hands. Her eyes were wet, but her smile was pure trouble. "That is incredibly inconvenient," she said. I blinked. "Is it?" "Yes, because I had a whole plan to say it first somewhere dramatic." Relief hit me so hard I almost laughed. "You can still do it." She stood, came around the table, and sat sideways in my lap like she belonged there. Then she cupped my face. "Daniel Mercer," she said very seriously, "I love you intensely." I grinned. "I like intense." "I know." She kissed me and the pasta went cold, and neither of us cared. 6 months later, the Brighton campaign won a regional award, which Janice pretended not to be emotional about. Marcus gave a toast at the office celebration that began with, "To think this all started because Hannah attacked Daniel with gravity." Hannah raised her glass. "The floor started it." By then, everyone knew we were together. Not because we announced it in some grand way, but because love has a way of taking up space. A spare cardigan appeared on the back of my chair. My cast iron pan started seeing actual vegetables. Hannah's cinnamon jar migrated between our desks like a tiny custody arrangement. A year after that night in her parents' kitchen, we moved into a sunlit apartment with uneven floors and a balcony just big enough for 2 chairs. On our first morning there, I found Hannah standing among half-unpacked boxes, wearing my sweatshirt and holding 2 mugs of coffee. She stepped backward, bumped into a box labeled Kitchen, Misk, and wobbled dramatically. I caught her by the waist, again. Her hands landed on my shoulders, again. Only this time there were no coworkers watching, no quarterly reports, no cold coffee threatening disaster, just morning light, cardboard boxes, and the woman I loved grinning up at me like gravity was still her favorite excuse. "Ooh," she said, eyes sparkling. I need to fall again." I pulled her closer. "You've been using that line for a year. And it keeps working. It really does." Then I kissed her in the middle of our messy new living room, holding her steady while sunlight spilled across the floor, and for once in my life, I didn't need a rule, a plan, or a spreadsheet. I just needed her. What would you have done if your work crush literally fell into your arms and then joked that she needed to fall again? Have you ever experienced something awkward that turned into something real? Tell your story in the comments. And for those who'd like to be a little closer to us, we've opened memberships where you'll get shorter exclusive stories every week with no ads. If you like this one, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.